This week on LCARA HAMRadio, we come back to Tiny Fangorn, my new property, where we installed the base of a tower, and we go from this to this, stacked on top of one another. All 6 sections are now fully stacked, and this man is responsible. KI4RWO came out to the property and did some work. That's what's coming up this week on LCARA HAMRadio. Well, welcome back to LCARA HAMRadio. We are going to be erecting the rest of the tower today. KI4RWO is coming to the Tiny Fangorn location, and we're going to start stacking this tower today. Welcome back. Alrighty, so we are going to get started. KI4RWO Ken came by with his work truck. He had to delay a week because the computer went out on this truck. He had to get a new one. But we got a nicer day, and it was 50-something degrees. We had 4 straight days of 0 or below 0 weather in northern middle Tennessee, and today was perfect. And as you can see, Ken comes dressed for this kind of work, and I'm always amazed at the Hawaiian shirts that he wears to climb a tower, but very festive, you could put it that way. And he's got a brand new gin pole. Now, I don't know exactly what gin pole means, but it's a pole for sure. But he had this made. It has 2 hooks, one at the bottom and one a movable collar in the middle. And he's going to attach this to this particular tower. He's going to slide this sleeve. That's the top one. He's going to slide that over across one of the X members or the X braces and kind of just give it a temporary hook, and then it can screw in so that it can't come loose from the tower. And as we'll see a little bit later, it also has a safety chain for this top one. But now as we look at the bottom, there's the other brace, if you will, the hook for the bottom section. And as we learned as we started using this one needs to be on the bottom, second to the bottom one from the section that you're on as you move up the tower, and the top collar needs to go to the very top to the last X brace before we put on the next section. There's his safety chain that we will see him use at least a couple of times as we go through the video. The main thing that I want everybody to understand is we're going to have a good time watching this video, but Ken is climbing this tower as if we're 1,000 feet. And that's the attitude that you have to have. In fact, he said as much. You basically put on the same equipment that you would use if you were climbing a tower that was 1,000 feet, not just 50 or 48 in this case. So he gets his trusty bag that's going to have all of the bolts and so forth. All of these bolts came off the original tower, the one we're putting up, and they have been out in the elements a little bit, so he's been soaking these in grease and motor oil for I don't know how long. We cleaned them up a little bit, and we also had some extras because we put some brand new bolts where the first section connected to the new legs that we put in the concrete in part 2. And at this point, Ken is going through his checklist. I need this size of power tool, nut drivers and so forth, and then of course his trusty bag, which he's going to hook up to his belt. And you can just take a look at this belt, plus this bag, plus the power tools, plus all the other tools that he's going to climb up on that tower. And he's probably got close to 50 pounds, probably more, I don't know, but he's used to it. So here I am, not helping very much, trying to move the second section of the tower with Ken. We're going to put this on the side of the tower that's going to be opposite from where he's going to be. So, of course, he's done this many times, so he knows how he's going to lay out the gin pole to get started. He also knows where he's going to put his sections. And then after some technical difficulties, we got started. Now, the camera fell down as we were putting this second section on. That's the way it always works, right? So I have some sped up versions of the other sections coming up a little bit later in the video, but at this point we've got the second section in place, and so he's taking those bolts, washers, and nuts, and he's affixing the tower. He wants to get one in each of the legs to get them started, get the holes to line up, and then he'll go back and put in the other 3. Now he's adjusting the top collar. So he's at the very top of that second section. Now he's moved down to the bottom section. Now this is where he's got to be extremely careful. He's always got to have at least 3 points of contact, no matter where he is on that tower and no matter what it is that he's doing. Either his belt is one of his points, which right now he doesn't have encircling the tower, or his feet plus his 2 hands, or his feet and that belt securely affixed around the tower. Here he's going to take that belt because he needs both of his hands, and he doesn't want those ropes to get in the way. There we go. He's going to wrap this around the tower, and he's got, of course, the hook there, and then he's going to cinch it down, and then he's going to get ready for the next section. So this is the part we missed when the camera fell, and we're just about ready to pull up the next section. Now notice where the gen pole is at the moment. It's already extended about 8 to 10 feet past where it needs to be so that we can raise the next section as high as it needs to be. He's double checking everything, making sure nothing is twisted. We're going to affix the rope to the next section, or I am, down at the bottom, and now he's going to begin to pull it up. Now I'm going to do this first section that we get pretty decently here, kind of slow, just so you can see the overall process in real time. Overall, to put this tower up, it took 2 hours. Now you can swing it over. And you can see, because he's got the belt on, he's got 3 points of contact, he can use both of his hands to start aligning the legs. They're going to just drop in place with the other section, and then there's some nibs sticking out that keeps it from falling any further, and then he can get to work putting the bolts on. So he's got his power tool plus a ratchet so that he can get good purchase on those bolts and nuts. And then he's going to tighten, again, 1 on each leg. And then he'll go back and do the second one. So there's 2 bolts per leg attaching section to section. Now, still adhering to safety. He's got his belt on, just took it off. So he's got to have 3 points, 4 points of contact. He's going to take his time, and he's going to move that collar up to the next highest cross-member brace. This is the part that a lot of people have never seen before. I have scoured the internet for videos on watching somebody do this, and I didn't find very many. And so I wanted our audience to see what it takes to put these towers up, because many times you're using a repeater site and the tower was already there, and you had no idea how that tower was actually put up, or at least a way that a tower was put up. This will give you a much better appreciation for some of your members who climb the towers and those professional climbers. Now he's on the bottom section. He's going to move it up. He's already got the first collar on up at the top section. Again, got his belt all the way around the tower. Going slow and methodical. He's never in a hurry. The entire 2 hours, I'm down on the ground with my head just straining to look up and to try to get some of these shots. And Ken is just taking his time. This year, he put up 15 towers. I don't know if that's a record, but just shows you how busy this guy is, because there just aren't that many people that do this kind of work. And certainly not dressed as stylishly as Ken is. You can see the top collar with the safety chain. He's still going to move that bottom section up a little bit more. Drop it in place, and he'll be ready to move the top section closer to the existing. So here we are moving that top hook higher up. It'll go to, I guess, second from the top on this section, so that we can get the gen pole high enough for the next section. Again, we need it to extend about 10 feet higher than the current section. He rolls it around, and now the hook's in place, and then there are, again, screws, or a bolt, really, that you screw down so that it can't come loose from the tower, and he uses the safety chain. Now, you might hear a little bit of wind. This was about as much wind as he'll work in putting up a tower. Certainly not for antennas. It was too windy to actually install any antennas this day. We could have potentially installed a rotor if we had had one. That'll be in the next video. And again, I just wanted to show you the speed at which we're working here. It's easy in a video like this just to speed everything up and just make it look too easy. I want everybody to get a sense of there's a little bit of risk here, but managed, mitigated risk, and Ken's doing all the right moves. So we lower the rope down. Again, he's up at the top of the current section. He's got his gin pole where he needs it. I'm going to affix the rope, and then he's going to pull it up. Then I'm going to keep the other part of the rope out of his way. Helps to have, of course, 2 people. What's wonderful about this gin pole is once he gets it to the correct height, or about as high as he needs it, all he has to do is just swing that section around. So one person working up on that tower can get that section in place. Now, these sections aren't terribly heavy, but still, you're up on that tower, you've got your points of contact, the belt on. You can see a lot of thought went into this gin pole that he had created. And now he just has to get it in place to put in 1 bolt in each leg to get everything to line up. So with this section on, we just have 2 sections left. They're a little bit smaller. They actually use a different size bolt as well. So now he's going to go and tighten up the bolts that he has. And then it's basically lift, tighten, and then move the gin pole up. So kind of a, repeat, rinse kind of process. Now, coming up here in just about a minute, I will speed up the next 2 sections just so you can see the overall process, but a little bit quicker ultimately. But you can see he's got to use both of his hands, so he's got 2 feet plus the belt, giving the points of contact that he needs. And then once he gets all the bolts in place, you can see he's just got 1 on each leg at this point. Now he's got 2 bolts per leg. He's going to move himself around to the gin pole side where he can start raising those collar, the 1 collar with the top hook. And then once he has that mostly in place, he'll then go all the way to the bottom and raise the lower part of the gin pole up higher also. Got to take off the safety chain, loosen it, take off the safety chain that you can see next to his knee there, and then we're ready to move on. We were just talking how he's put up 15 towers this year and he hasn't put his up yet. Whenever he's ready to put up his tower, all he has to do is ask. I'll be there to help him. Now I'm going to speed up again the next 2 sections, and I'm going to be quiet. I'm not really going to make a whole lot of comments here, but again, just so you can see basically the full process of these next 2 sections. And these 4 sections, or these 4 snippets I've got that have sped up, roughly probably equate to about 20-25 minutes. It's kind of pretty to see the clouds go by. Now he's got to raise the lower section. Now he's got everything in place. He's ready to get back up to the top, lower the rope, and the second to last section can come up. Overall, this tower is going to be 48 feet tall. 6 sections, 8 feet apiece. Then probably a mast of about 10 feet. Not all of that will be pointing up into the sky. There will be about 2.5 feet in the tower connected to the rotor. So if you've got a tower climber in your club, thank that man or woman and let them know how much you appreciate their time. And we're coming to the end of the sped up section, but I wanted you to see one section going up in its entirety so you can see the full process. As we're back to normal speed, we're just about ready to pull up the last segment here. And overall, this is going to give me nice height above ground, or above terrain. And ultimately, we're going to have 3 antennas on this tower. And it was just windy enough that, again, having that second person on the ground was a must. And I can't tell you how jazzed I was to see that last section go into place. You know, I've had these tower sections on the property for several weeks, and we've not been in a hurry. Ken's a busy man. I'm a busy person with my IT training and so forth. And so it just worked out nicely to come in on this particular day. But to see that last section going up, you can see there's, inside the tower, there are some plates. That's where the bottom one there, about 2 X braces down, that's where the rotor is going to install. And then there's another plate, or top plate, at the very top where the thrust bearing can be installed. And then the mast will actually be in the center of the tower, jutting up towards the sky. Now that he's got the section in place, he can start putting in the bolts. The bolts for the last 2 sections were quite a bit smaller because these sections aren't as large as the bottom 4. So now that we have the last section in place, it is time to break things down. And we need to lower the gen pole down back to the ground. Now, it's heavy, and it's long and unwieldy, and it's windy. So yet again, we need to be extremely careful and mindful of doing this safely. Now, in my brain, because I've never done this before, I'm thinking he's going to attach it some way to the tower, the gen pole, and we'll just lower it to the ground. No, that's not going to work because, number one, it's affixed to the tower with the 2 hooks, and number 2, it wouldn't be safe, especially with the wind. So we're going to have to take this down in a nice, orderly process. So he's gone ahead and removed the rope that we used for raising the tower sections. And so we're basically just left with the gen pole attached with those 2 hooks to the tower. Again, Ken's always going to make sure he's got 3 points of contact, plus he's also got his belt on still here. He's going to start making his way down the tower, and then he's going to have to swing to the other side of the tower to begin lowering the gen pole itself. Now again, I'm showing you this process in real speed so you can get a feel for, again, the safety involved here, plus, you know, just how much effort is required to put up a tower. And as we zoom out, left my big finger in the way there, now he's making his way back around the tower so that he can actually start lowering the gen pole itself. Take his bag of tricks with him as well. If I remember correctly, he will eventually affix that to his belt, so it's not hanging off the tower at all. Here he makes his way around the tower, always with at least 3 points of contact. Still got the belt on as well. He's He's already loosened the top collar.
Yeah. A little bit at a time.
And as you heard, again, just nice and methodical. Not in a hurry. Not even when you're done putting up a tower and you're probably a little bit, jazzed about doing that kind of work, and you can see the results of your work. You're going to be just as methodical here as you were when you were first going up the tower and just getting 8 to 10 feet off the ground. Now he's going to go revisit that top hook on that movable collar. And folks, just as a reminder, these towers are relatively easy to climb because of the cross bracing, but the actual places where you put your feet are at some very extreme angles. So I can only imagine what his feet and ankles are like, having done this for many, many years. And some of the towers have better bracing, some have even worse bracing this as far as climbing the tower and being comfortable climbing the tower. Just removed his safety chain on the top collar, top hook. He's got to loosen that hook, so again, he's got to unscrew the bolt so that he's got some space between the bolt and the tower. Now it's moved away from the tower and he can start lowering it. Again, just a little at a time. And I was thinking he was going to have to lower it this carefully all the way down, but in fact, because the pole is so long, I think he was about 15 feet off the ground. We could just touch the pole to the ground and then I could take over from there. But still, it's got to come down the tower a bit by bit. And you can see it's getting a little bit cloudier on this day. It didn't rain on us. I think we felt a few drops, but it never actually rained. You can see he's about, a third of the way down. Lowering the gin pole just a little bit at a time. If you haven't already, press that subscribe button. We don't ask for you to press the button all that often, although we do put up the little captions, but since we're taking this slow to give you a sense of the safety involved, press that subscribe button if you haven't already. Well, we're just about ready to wrap up here. This will be the last segment before he starts putting his tools away. Once again, if you're a member of a club, find out who those people are in your club that are doing your tower maintenance, putting those antennas up on the tower, erecting new towers for members and for your club. Shake that person's hand. Maybe get out there and ask if you can help them. A lot of times you're not going to be the one going up on the tower, of course, but they can always use a person on the ground. Sometimes they drop tools. Sometimes they just need somebody to swing that rope around. You can see at this point, he's just above the ground where he can lower this gin pole, and a tall 6'2" guy can come on over and take it off his hands. still not off the tower, but again, we want to be safe, no sudden movements. Now he's out of the way. I can move the gin pole out of the way, and he can begin his final remaining descent. And folks, that's how you erect one of these HDBX towers. 6 sections in this case, 48 feet. Ken was nice enough to scope it out, find it, and then say, I'll shoot you a price for the tower, his putting it up, and ultimately we'll get those antennas up there. And that'll be in part number 4. We got a rotor to install and the antennas. For the Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association, find whoever is your tower climber and maybe give them a pat on the back and ask if you can help them the next time they put up a tower. Hope you've enjoyed this video series thus far, and we'll see you in the next video. 73.